On today's show, we take a look at Vancouver's open-air museum and an international modeling sensation and actress. Hello, and to welcome you watching The Ledge. I'm your host, Lola Acala. So glad that you could join us on another episode of our show. We have a great show lined up for you today, so let's get right to it. When talking public art in the city of Vancouver, we are pretty lucky to have a city that's littered with some incredible world-class art installations by talented artists from right here at home in Canada and globally. And we have none other to thank than the Vancouver Biennale organization, who have been doing incredible things using public art to transform our city into a bit of an art oasis. And joining me now in the studio is the Vancouver Biennale president, my friend, Barrie Mowatt. Hello, love.
Hello, it's great to be here with you.
How are you?
As I said earlier, I'm a bit overwhelmed by all the beauty in front of me.
Oh, whatever.
Whatever.
Oh, thank you, darling.
That'd be spliced.
Good to see you here.
Likewise, likewise.
How's it going?
It's going. We're 2 weeks away from our final installation. So.
Indeed. You know, and this is what we're saying. You know, you guys do an incredible job in the way that you transform, otherwise empty spaces into incredible public art museums right in our backyards. And let's start from the beginning. What is the primary goal of the work that you do?
Primary goal really is how to create accessibility to great art. So it literally is the open air museum. We want to remove those walls because most, 90-some% of the population does not access public galleries or such. They're uncomfortable. And so we wanted to bring the museum to where you live, work, play, and transit. So that's our vision, really to transform our community into an open-air museum of a world-class standard. The mantra for the Biennale really is about art as a catalyst for learning, community engagement, and social action. And so you'll see the works that we curate in really all talk about all three of those kind of components as being a major factor.
Indeed. And what I love about it is in the way that you make it, art accessible just to the ordinary people on the street.
That's a crucial factor. It's really about access because, art has different levels, and there are people who like to think that they are the intelligentsia of what happens in the art world, and that has separated people. It's like, I like to think that
we all have a little bit of art in us.
Exactly, yeah. There's that creativity that's available to us, but we really want people to feel comfortable and the objective of that really is if we can get people to feel comfortable with really important and fine artworks in their public spaces and where they live, work, play, and transit.
It inspires.
Then that's right. So a generation from now, hopefully they'll be saying, we want those things. We want more cultural activities, we want more cultural engagement.
Wonderful.
So that enriches a community.
And what I also love is the cultural exchange aspect of the work that you do in the way that you bring in, international artists to collaborate with local ones through your residency program. Tell us a bit about your residency program and how all that works and comes about.
It's actually the newest program of the 5 programs in the Biennale, and it's probably the one I'm most proud of. It's really focused on artists under 40 because the big open-air museum installations focus on big names and the real branded museum artists. So with our residency program, we invite a number of curators. Actually, there's 28 curators are involved in this one from around the world who would recommend artists that they felt would be able to function in an open environment.
Indeed.
And so we bring them together in groups of 4 to 6. Most of them have occurred at Quest University in Squamish, which is a phenomenal facility. So we like to call it our Quest Biennale kind of residency program because they've been a tremendous collaborator. But how our residency differs from others is they are required to go into community. So they have to actually go and meet people in the community to realize their projects. And then they have to create a project, whether it's ephemeral, whether it's a poetic thing or a musical thing, but they have to perform it or they have to create it and install it within that community.
Wow.
To interact with other artists from completely different backgrounds, receiving their feedback, gaining their perspectives, seeing how their perspectives impact my own perspective. That's been really important for me.
After an hour, I guess, people started really interacting with the artwork. They tried to sit twice and broke into benches.
I've been joking the whole time about how I've been very scared of bears, but then I sort of got used to the idea. But then when we saw one in our garden, I realised they are everywhere here.
It's totally a new place and a new view, a new experience and everything. So, yeah, it should change anybody.
So in this last group that were here, 3 major projects came out of that, which were quite exciting and beyond our imagining. These are 6-week programs, and a 26 by 2 feet neon sign, solar powered, with the phrase "This Beautiful Day" by an Australian artist was created, and it was based on her engagement with the First Nations people and the language of communication and greeting, and how that phrase actually is what's used each time in a greeting. And its backdrop, of course, is the Chief, which is the famous mountain.
Beautiful.
So it's quite a spectacular installation.
Wow.
Another large installation where they took a 400-year-old log that was gifted to the young American and Mexican artists who came together worked in partnership to create this canoe in new arcade or architectural rendering kind of format. But they realized they had to engage again First Nations, because the canoe they were creating, which was meant to be a historical canoe based on the Salish Sea and all the research they'd done around that,
much so,
really
yes.
wouldn't float. And it was the First Nations senior and elder who actually told them that it wasn't going to float the way they were designing it.
Well, yeah.
Even though they were using modern technology, it was the old technology that was still going to work out.
That's right. They've done it for years.
Exactly.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
So they had to dialogue and engage people in that community around it, then also in helping to actually create and carve it. An extra exchange of that was they gave half the tree to the elder who had talked about wanting to create 2 small canoes for his own grandkids and things like that. So again, another kind of relationship building that occurred around that.
Beautiful. It's quite the cultural exchange. Indeed.
Broader than we might have imagined. And then there was a wonderful artist that came from Syria, Tamam Aziz, and that was one of the heart-wrenching kind of ones that you get to. He had been rejected by the Canadian government 4 times for a visa. Took him a year and a lot of interventions, and he finally arrived here. And interestingly, he created a totem out of 60 suitcases that were donated and gifted to him. That is now a semi-permanent installation at Coast Mountain Academy on the Quest campus.
Oh, wow, cool.
So.
Indeed, 2015 was quite the busy year for you guys,
Yeah.
with a number of art installations both in and around the city, including works by, Chinese artist and activist Ai Weiwei, who he installed his F-grass, which the F-grass is a public sculpture best described as a defiant act against censorship in a form of a symbolic obscenity pointed back to his homeland of China from the democratic shores of Vancouver. I mean, that was one incredible piece. How did all of that one come about, and how long did it take?
Your description was beautiful, and thank you for that. So it was a good understanding of the process and the work. A very famous, now local resident Chinese curator named Sheng, we say Sheng, is well connected in China and has been responsible for a number of major exhibitions across North America and in Europe. And we focused on Ai Weiwei, and he, through his interventions, met with Ai Weiwei and several times, and was able to encourage him to consider participating in Vancouver.
Incredible.
We gave him 9 videos of areas around Vancouver, outdoor areas, for him to consider creating an original work in.
Installation.
And he chose, as you know, just down the street here at the end of Cardero, and created a work that very much, I think, talked to Vancouver, talked to the changing politics.
The world,
in many ways.
of political activism, responding to what's going on in his environment. And yeah, it's
What's interesting is F-grass, of course, the F stood for that favorite word we all know so well.
Very well.
And that was his way of doing the finger to the government. But they didn't realize when all these little tufts of iron grass blades were being created that they were going to create something other than, some ironic little sculpture they had no imagining of. The challenge and interesting thing that happened with time was, as he just was given a visa a couple of months ago, that F now transitions from probably being this to the government more to the ask of freedom. So F now can transitions into freedom, the rights to actually be able to move freely throughout the continent.
Let's talk about some of your other installations. How long did Os Guimeos take? And it's done such incredible things for that environment. I mean, those silos, ordinarily just gray, ugly, you know, and what he's done, he's just incredibly made that scene really quite vibrant.
Yeah. It's interesting. That was, again, another senior curator, Marcello Dantas, who will be here shortly to unveil the newest and largest work called Wow, Westminster. So another Brazilian artist, interestingly, but that's what happens when you have a Brazilian curator. But Os Guimeos, they were a surprise for us. We relied upon the curator again to make some recommendations. We took that recommendation and brought the twins, which Os Guimeos means in Portuguese.
Means two twins.
Means the twins, yeah.
Twins, yeah.
So it took 7 weeks, basically, once we were able to secure Ocean Concrete's support to use those silos. An interesting sidebar on that story is we had them out here for a week in a very rainy November in 2013.
Okay.
It was probably the worst weather you could ever imagine to try and introduce somebody to Vancouver.
Indeed.
We had proposed all kinds of different buildings, and they didn't want any of them.
Oh, wow.
And one night when they were out cruising the streets, so to speak, they found the silos and came back to us and said, "That's where we want to be."
That's what we want.
And of course, for me, it was, "Oh my God, you know, no, I
I
I
gotta
gotta
start navigating this
navigate
one.
that one."
Exactly.
And fortunately, the engineers and the people at Ocean were really supportive. They were willing to take the risk, and that's
Wonderful.
I got to give them a pat in the back because they stepped out there much faster than other jurisdictions have. And it's transitioned the whole
It's wonderful.
the whole island.
And how can we also forget, you know, the Headless Figures by renowned Polish artist Magdalena Abakanowicz. I mean, that one is another one that actually saw a lot of controversy when it was erected, you know, with some of the people in the neighborhood saying, you know, these figures are scaring our children. Some, you know, related them to, you know, some violence and talking about, well, you know, the fact that they're headless figures, we see enough beheadings on TV. Did that surprise you, that response?
I think the latter one did, for sure. But again, the times keep changing.
Indeed.
Politics keep changing. The world keeps changing. Her work is never meant to be a soft, easy, you know, isn't it pretty, isn't it cute kind of thing. It's anything but that. It's really about catching you in such a way that you have to somehow engage it. It forces you to say, what is going on here? We've done 2 installations with that actual work. There are 20 large-scale 9-foot pieces. And there was the original one in the first 2009 to 11 Biennale, in which they were all as a grouping.
Right.
Subsequently, now they're in 2 groups. There's the grouping at City Hall, at the transit station there.
Very much so, the Canada Line station, indeed.
And then the really fun one is in North Vancouver, coming down Lonsdale, and that's the one that created a lot of controversy.
Absolutely.
But you know, the irony of that was, with all that controversy, many months later, when the North Shore News and such was doing their public survey as to what was the best in public art in the North Shore, the Headless Figures were number 1, and the second Biennale installation, the squatty red Chinese characters, look like little Buddhas.
Indeed, very much so, the squatting Buddhas.
Called The Meeting. They were the second most popular in North Vancouver. So people found their way through it, but it did what public art's meant to do. It engaged them. It taught them to talk.
It's about the discourse, you know. It gets us talking, whether we like it or not. It at least facilitates.
Yeah. And that's the whole objective. Yeah.
Indeed, very much so. As you know, we said you can find 9 of the 19 installations at City Hall Canada Line stations on Canby Street, and the remaining 11 spread out along Lonsdale Avenue in North Vancouver. The artist also has the same installations, 106 of them to be exact, titled Agora, on permanent display at Chicago's Grants Park. Now, let's talk very quickly about the idea that you guys are now integrating movies and music as part of your exhibition. 2014 saw, you know, like we said, famed Hollywood movie director Oliver Stone come to town to unveil his Untold History of the United States. I was rather lucky because, you know, I got to sit with him in an interview for that one. You're also integrating music, which we saw Vivian Fong. How has those 2 elements changed your exhibition in terms of what it brings and how everything's different now?
Well, I think it's just an expansion of the Biennale in terms of it's still deals with the arts. It's how to, again, make it more accessible to the population generally. Oliver Stone was an exciting launch for us in terms
really
of that. And we got to, again, launch the Untold History of the United States in Canada. But what we continue to do with both his film series and the Ai Weiwei series is, if you go on our website now, every month there is one of those films, either Ai Weiwei's or Oliver Stone's, that can be viewed freely. So that really is a focus into post-secondary schools and schools who integrate that into our education program.
Yes.
So that we like to see film as an educational component. Our focus in music and film, which is a real probably personal joy, but music is the easiest way to connect with people. Everyone responds to music in some capacity. So they respond to film. It's very much a part of our what we're all about. But the documentary film with music in it becomes sort of that little niche. And so we like to bring that into the Biennale, where you'll bring a performer along with, or the producer of those doc films with music in them into our genre.
It does work, and it just brings a completely different element into the work. Now, one of your most colorful yet, the blue trees. I mean, I just love that pop of color. How did the idea of the blue trees come about?
We were introduced again through one of our curators to Condamopoulos, who had created the blue tree concept. And he is an Australian, but he'd never been able to really realize in Australia at the time, because I guess politics such and finding the space to do it. And we invited him to Vancouver to be a part of the 209-211 Biennale. And that became sort of a launch point for him, which is exciting because that's what Biennales are really all about, is to provide opportunities for artists to be seen and recognized around the world. So that became a Vancouver Biennale initiative, which has gone worldwide.
Wow,
so Blue Trees is now in over 3 continents. We're moving to a 4th one as a result of the current installations we've had in Vancouver.
So cool.
It's a wonderful socially conscious, it's a social conscious project. So it goes into our Big Ideas education program real easily, but it gets everybody involved. So in just the recent one we had in West Vancouver at the Simons opening, there were 400 and some people came out to color 260 trees, 175 that were gifted to people.
Project.
It was community. And
Very
so
much so.
175 of those trees are now in somebody's backyard somewhere on the Lower Mainland.
You know what I enjoy about it is how the artist says that he's trying to bring, trees more closer into our consciousness so that we understand how vital, trees are to human existence, basically. And I just love that idea.
Beginning in the spring of 2016, the large-scale Biennale installation artworks are now going to be available for sale. So in keeping with the Biennale's focus of trying to create a legacy for a community, we're hoping that other venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, much like Chip Wilson in the last Biennale came forward, we're hoping that somebody will come forward, or several people will come forward and help to make it possible to keep at least one of the major works that we see throughout Metro in our home communities.
Because a lot of work goes into those creations. We've seen even Ai Weiwei, his cluster of wooden stools sold at Sotheby's just last fall for, I think, about 437,000 pounds, at Sotheby's. So, these artworks, they're not cheap, but someone has to step forward and, sort of, say, hey, this is important for the city, and, I couldn't agree with you more. My last question now is, when people engage with the art, what do you hope that they take away from the experience?
The curiosity, the desire to explore more, just to investigate, ask questions, to maybe think about how they got there, who put them there.
Who put them there?
Yeah. Because
communication.
Because the Biennale is all about, it's a not-for-profit, so it doesn't rely on the city for funding. It would be nice if we did, but we're very independent, so we rely upon individuals' curiosity and engagement somehow, so that they say, aha, I want to get more involved, how do I, et cetera, et cetera.
Very much so. Well, it's great the work that you do, and we continue to support you, and we will continue to look out for you out there, you and your art installations.
Well, thank you for that.
If you'd like to know more about the work that the Vancouver Biennale does, their programs, how you can be a part of it, or how you can help their programs, please visit their website, www.vancouverbiennale.com. Up next, she is the gorgeous vision Steven Tyler sings to in his first ever country music video. We'll meet my next guest after this.
Diversity is extremely important in the media. We live in a multicultural world, which is so great and interesting. We could learn something new every day from one another.
Welcome to the Ledge 2016 production fundraising campaign. As an independent broadcast executive producer, we are independent public television content providers. And as such, that work is not supported by corporate or the mainstream media, which at this stage in our game is exactly as we want it. If we are to remain independent, quite frankly, it's the only way.
Lola's brand is social justice advocacy, highlighting social issues and inequality issues that affect the local community, but that also have a global impact. Her work is really calling out and highlighting failures of the system. My name is Amar Mahimwala, and I am the programs manager at the Vancouver Biennale.
But we cannot do it ourselves. We need your help to support independent media. For more on how you can help The Ledge and the work that we do, please go to our Kickstarter campaign and donate to help. We here at The Ledge thank you all so much in advance for all your support. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching The Ledge. Now, no doubt by now, most of us have seen the new Steven Tyler country music video. And if you were ever wondering who that gorgeous girl is in that video, well, it's my next guest. She's making incredible waves in the modeling industry. She's a very talented actress. Please welcome to the show, Emily Maddison. Hello, darling.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here. So I said, gorgeous vision in white. That video looked like such, like a really cool video, like a lot of fun. Tell me about your experience and what the premise of it was as well.
It was. I was so excited to get that job. It's set on this beautiful farm kind of in the Nashville countryside, so it was a gorgeous location to film at. The video itself is kind of depicting these influential moments throughout Steven's life that kind of led up to his transition into country music and into that song in particular.
I think a lot of people were really, surprised indeed that, he actually even came out with a country music video.
I think so. It was kind of shocking.
The shock itself was like, is that Steven, But it was really cool, turned out really cool. What was he like on the set? Is he what you'd expect? Like, did he hang out with a crew, that sort of thing?
I have to say, I was really nervous to meet him. I mean, it is intimidating to meet someone who's such an icon like that. But as soon as I met him, he put me at ease, as I think he did with everybody. Just kind of a fun-loving, easygoing person. Good sense of humor.
And does his reputation precede him? The rock star kind of ladies' man.
Well, you definitely hear a lot of stuff about what he's like.
Indeed.
But in person, he was lovely and kind and fun to work with.
No, it did look like a lot of fun. Do you often do a lot of music videos?
No, actually, I've only done those two, the one with Steven Tyler and then the one with Tayo Cruz.
Indeed, that's right. So, what was your experience like on that?
That was a fun one. We were shooting at this gorgeous mansion in the hills, kind of overlooking the city. The one tricky thing with that was that the day of, they decided that they wanted to have all of the models lip sync along to the lyrics. So we had a very small amount of time to learn all of those lyrics.
Indeed.
And I mean, some of the girls' English is not their first language, so I can't imagine how they managed to pull that together.
So what happens is they come, you get the gig, and what happens, they say, okay, you got a Tayo Cruz video, and they send you to LA, and they pay for all the expenses and that kind of thing. Is that how it works?
Sometimes that's how it works. At that time, I was actually living in LA. I was down there for a couple of months, so that was booked through my agency,
so it worked out
Wilhelmina.
just perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Right place, right time. See amazing things and you see terrible things, and overall it just opens your eyes, I think, to the world that we live in.
Indeed.
You know, I grew up in a very small town, kind of an isolated town, and I think I was a little naive to a lot of things.
I can imagine.
And maybe didn't have quite as broad a perspective as I'm getting to acquire now through the traveling and the modeling. And
What's some of the craziest things that you've seen in, you know, in the industry that kind of made you say, oh wow, you know, that one's beyond me, you know?
I mean, there are always outrageous fashion designs, outrageous styles that you get to wear. Sometimes the bizarre things are the most fun.
Yeah.
You know, I've definitely had
Indeed,
some crazy get-ups that I've had to wear.
Unexpected, you know, unforeseen eventualities.
That's right. It keeps things interesting.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your acting. Now, you had the lead for the Vancouver comedy production, The Perfect Pickup.
I had the female lead, yes.
Female lead,
It was,
indeed. What was that like?
It was a dream to get that job. I never expected to book that role, and when I got to read the full script, I was pretty blown away at how funny and clever it was, and I couldn't believe that I got to be a part of it. It's written and directed by Chad Rook, and he really put together an excellent group of hilarious actors.
Vancouver cast.
Yeah. And they were a lot of fun to work with. It was something new for me, and it was definitely a supportive team, and I think the end result is going to be amazing.
Indeed. Well, you also had a role in Tim Burton's motion picture production, Big Eyes, which was events on the life of artist Margaret Keane. I mean, Tim Burton, I mean, what a genius, I'd say.
He
He's such a talented guy. What was it like being on set, being directed by him?
It was pretty neat to be able to watch a legend essentially do his thing on set. He was extremely welcoming and personable, and I think he just kind of created an environment that amazing things could happen in. I think when everybody's comfortable and feels safe, they can really go for things, and it paid off.
At a time when, you know, most models' careers are slowing down somewhat, yours is absolutely taking off. Now, where next can we see you?
Well, so many of the projects that I'm working on or about to work on right now are kind of top secret at the moment, but I can mention a few things in general. I just found out this week that I booked a role on a feature film set to film next March, and that will be something a little bit different for me. It will be something scary, so I'm very excited for that. I also just did an amazing shoot with photographer Emma Dunlavey, and that will be part of an exhibition in Miami this December, and the proceeds for that will go towards the Pamela Anderson Foundation.
Wonderful.
I'm really excited for those images.
Well, we're going to look out for that, and we're going to look out for you out in the scene. I have no doubt that you're going to do incredible things out there. Emily Maddison, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And that's our show. I'd like to thank my guest, Barrie Mowatt, Emily Maddison, and you at home. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, or you just want to let us know how we're doing, please go to our website, www.theledgetvshow.com, our Facebook page or our Twitter page, or you can tweet me at Lola Acala. And remember, guys, take care of one another, and we'll see you soon.
Wants to be, it all becomes unclear. And before you know it, it's only a matter of time. So it's right before you. So don't give up. Know, truly know, God has done you wrong. It all becomes so clear. It's then that you truly know. And before you know it, it's only a matter of